A grocery store rarely looks alarming at the beginning of a disruption. The lights are still bright, the carts still roll through the aisles, the shelves still appear mostly full. If you walked into a store during the first few days of a supply slowdown, you might not notice anything unusual at all. The brands look familiar. The packages are in their usual places. A delivery truck may even be unloading pallets in the back. In the first 3 days, it feels manageable. People pick up their usual groceries and maybe add a few extra items just to be safe. A couple of canned foods, a little extra rice, maybe a few more snacks than usual. Most shoppers assume that whatever disruption they heard about will pass quickly. But patterns rarely show themselves immediately. By the third week, something subtle begins to change. The store still looks full from a distance, but a closer look tells a different story. A few shelf spaces look thinner than they used to, and a familiar brand might be missing. A product that once filled an entire row now appears in just a few boxes. Prices begin to shift quietly as well. Not dramatically, just enough that attentive shoppers start to notice. This pattern has repeated many times before. During storms, transportation disruptions, labor shortages, and supply chain adjustments. The first days rarely feel dramatic, but the third week often tells the real story. The households that stay calm plan differently. They understand something most shoppers overlook. Stability does not come from reacting to empty shelves. It comes from recognizing patterns before those shelves ever become empty. Most households prepare for comfort, not duration. When people hear about supply disruptions, they tend to buy the foods they enjoy most. Fresh produce, refrigerated meals, snack foods, convenience items. Those foods feel familiar and reassuring in the moment. But comfort foods disappear quickly during supply disruptions. Fresh foods spoil quickly. Refrigerated foods depend on stable deliveries. Convenience snacks are often the first items to disappear because they move quickly through stores. A pantry built around comfort rarely lasts very long when disruptions stretch across weeks. That is why the most resilient households think differently about food. Instead of asking what sounds good today, they ask a more important question. How long will this food support normal life if deliveries slow down? Duration-grade foods follow a different logic. They last longer. They store well. They deliver reliable calories. They combine easily with other ingredients. And they continue working quietly in the background, long after more fragile foods have disappeared. Understanding that difference changes the way a pantry is built. Because when deliveries stretch across weeks instead of days, the most valuable foods are not always the ones people buy first. Another pattern also becomes clear when shortages stretch across time. The real pressure rarely comes from the first few days. It comes from the weeks that follow. Short disruptions are easy to manage. A household can eat through leftovers, frozen foods, and quick grocery trips. But when deliveries slow down over several weeks, decisions become harder. Meals must stretch further. Ingredients must combine efficiently. Energy levels must stay stable. That is why time becomes the real problem. And that is why smart food planning focuses on a simple framework. The first category includes foods that deliver long-lasting calories. These foods carry the bulk of a household's energy needs. The second category includes foods that anchor nutrition through protein and fats. Without those nutrients, energy levels begin to drop quickly. The third category includes foods that cook efficiently. When resources become limited, foods that cook quickly or require less fuel become extremely valuable. And the final category includes foods that protect routine and morale. Even small comforts can stabilize a household during uncertain weeks. When these four roles work together, the pantry becomes a stable system rather than a random collection of groceries. Based on that framework, there are 7 foods that consistently prove their value when shelves begin to empty. White rice sits at the foundation of that list. Rice stores easily, lasts for years when sealed properly, and provides dense calories in a small amount of space. It cooks efficiently and pairs with almost any ingredient. A small amount of rice can stretch a meal significantly. In many households around the world, rice has served as a dependable food foundation for generations. It remains inexpensive, easy to store, and extremely versatile. During supply disruptions, those qualities become even more important. Rolled oats serve a slightly different role, but one that becomes just as valuable over time. Oats cook quickly and require minimal fuel. In some cases, they can even be soaked instead of cooked. That makes them useful when energy resources become limited. They also provide steady energy and fiber, helping maintain stable routines during uncertain weeks. Because oats can be used for breakfast, baking, or simple meals, they add flexibility to a pantry that might otherwise become repetitive. Pasta fills another important space in a long-term pantry. Like rice, pasta stores easily and delivers reliable calories. It cooks quickly and combines well with a wide variety of ingredients. Even a small amount of vegetables, beans, or canned foods can turn pasta into a complete meal. Because it stores compactly and cooks efficiently, pasta remains one of the simplest foods to maintain in a long-term pantry. These 3 foods together form the calorie foundation of a resilient food system. They carry the bulk of energy needs and allow smaller ingredients to stretch further across multiple meals. But calories alone are not enough to sustain a household for long periods. Protein and fats play an equally important role. Dry beans have served as a reliable protein source for centuries. When stored properly, they last for years while remaining inexpensive and compact. For beans pair naturally with rice and pasta, creating balanced meals that deliver both energy and nutrition. Although they require soaking and cooking, their long shelf life and nutritional value make them extremely useful when disruptions last longer than expected. Peanut butter provides a different kind of advantage. It requires no cooking at all. It delivers both protein and healthy fats, and it contains dense calories in a small amount of space. During physically demanding days, such as clearing storm damage or managing household repairs, foods like peanut butter provide quick energy without requiring preparation. These 2 foods anchor nutrition in a pantry that might otherwise rely too heavily on starches. But even a pantry filled with calories and protein needs another important layer. Cooking essentials. Cooking oil is one of the most overlooked foods in long-term planning. Oil provides concentrated calories and allows many foods to be prepared properly. It carries flavor, improves texture, and supports energy needs when physical work increases. Without cooking oil, many pantry foods become far less satisfying and less versatile. Salt serves an equally important role. Although it provides no calories, salt supports preservation, flavor balance, and electrolyte stability. Without it, even well-stocked foods can become difficult to eat over long periods. Salt also supports simple preservation techniques that can extend the usefulness of many ingredients. Together, these 7 foods create a balanced system. Rice, Oats and pasta provide calorie stability. Beans and peanut butter anchor protein and fats. Cooking oil and salt support preparation and preservation. When combined thoughtfully, these foods allow households to maintain structured meals even when grocery deliveries slow down. However, the value of these foods only becomes clear when they are used strategically. One of the most common mistakes in food preparation is random stockpiling. People buy large amounts of one item while neglecting others. They fill shelves with snacks but forget cooking essentials. They stock grains but overlook protein. Balance matters far more than quantity. Cost per calorie is another important factor. Many of the most reliable pantry foods are also the most affordable. A large bag of rice or beans can support dozens of meals over time. When stored properly, these foods become extremely inexpensive forms of stability. Fuel efficiency also becomes important during disruptions. Foods that cook quickly require less energy and fewer resources. Oats and pasta, for example, require much less cooking time than many other foods. That efficiency becomes valuable when resources are limited. Storage habits play an equally important role. Moisture, heat, and pests are the biggest threats to long-term food supplies. Dry foods should be stored in airtight containers and kept in cool environments whenever possible. In humid climates, additional protection against moisture becomes critical. In hot regions, cooler interior storage areas extend shelf life significantly. Elevating food supplies off the floor also protects them from flooding and water damage. Rotation is another simple habit that strengthens any pantry system. Using older foods first and replacing them gradually ensures that supplies remain fresh while maintaining long-term stability. When these habits become routine, the pantry stops feeling like an emergency supply and starts functioning as a quiet system that supports everyday life. Over time, that system creates a powerful advantage, because when disruptions stretch from days into weeks, the households with balanced food systems rarely feel the same pressure as everyone else. Meals remain predictable. Energy stays steady. Decisions remain calm. Preparation is not panic, it is positioning. A well-prepared household does not react emotionally when shelves begin to thin out. It simply continues following the system it already built. Which of these foods do you already keep stocked? Because the real goal is not predicting every disruption that might occur. The goal is building a food system that continues working even when circumstances change. Preparation removes uncertainty.